Welcome to JWL Sports, where we review all the best sports clips from around the world. You're probably wondering, why should I watch over here instead of anywhere else? And that's because over there, they don't care about what you have to say. They say this all the time. They talk down to us. They think we're just a bunch of clowns on YouTube, Twitter. But I think it's the opposite. I think we know exactly what we're talking about. So I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get into some discussions. Let's get into some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. So without further ado, let's get to it. We're watching a clip of First Take with Stephen A. Talking about, the fact that the Bills traded Stephon Diggs. I mean, I think we all felt that this was coming, a long time coming. He was obviously unhappy there. And I know that Josh Allen was also not happy with Diggs. So I think it's good that he's out of there, although the Bills will definitely be worse off. And the Texans are going to be better off, right? I mean, I think this is a huge, huge gain for the Texans and CJ Stroud and that offense. So, the Texans are coming. I thought they were coming even without Diggs. And now that they added Diggs, I think is, a pretty big splash move. And again, these are the things that I always call out, say, like the Dallas Cowboys for not doing, for making these moves to really bolster up your team. It's like the Texans went further than Dallas in the playoffs, and yet the Texans are like, okay, we want to get better. And Dallas is like, well, we're okay. We're not going to get better. It just doesn't make sense to me. So let's take a listen to see what they have to say, and we'll break it down further from there.
The Texans are not playing around. Like, this is between what they have done in free agency. Look on the defensive side of the football with the additions of guys like Danico Autry, Azeez Al-Shire. And then on offense, now they get Joe Mixon at running back. They re-signed Dalton Schultz. They already have Tank Dell. They already have Nico Collins. They already have Noah Brown. And then you add him into the mix here, along with CJ, who has already taken over this organization as the unquestioned, bona fide alpha, along with D'Amico kind of like overseeing this entire thing and drawing out of these guys the kind of performance, camaraderie, leadership, accountability that he's drawing out of them. Look, you have to tip your cap right now to Nick Caserio in terms of what he is getting done down there. He has catapulted them, I believe, now to the very top of the South, and they are firmly in the mix now to be able to deal with teams like Baltimore, deal with teams like Kansas City on a toe-to-toe type basis. Now, I know those are huge leaps considering how Baltimore dominated them last year in the playoffs, but this is how you make those steps. You go out and get these difference makers. Look, CJ Stroud is going to be a top 3-4 quarterback this year. He'll be in that mix where you're going to be sitting there going, okay, well, where does he stack up with Josh? Where does he stack up with Joe Burrow? Where does he stack up with Lamar and all? He's going to be right in there now. He's going to be right in there. And as a team, what they are doing on both sides of the football and who they have at the helm right now in D'Amico, who was going to quickly solidify his place as a top 4 or 5 coach in the NFL, this organization, it is going straight up. It is going parabolic what they're getting done down there, especially this offseason. And it all started last year when, quite honestly, CJ fell to them and fell right in their lap. And it was the best thing that ever happened to him.
Blame David Tepper for that, the owner of Carolina. But you are 1,000% right from a Houston standpoint. That team is a good team. They got good receivers. They got a couple of tight ends. He's a good coach. Stroud's great. Diggs will be into it. Warm weather. Division's easy. 100%. 100%. I'll take it from the Buffalo angle. And you're not going to like it, but I'm going to say it. I think Buffalo, this is the right move for the Bills. He had been here a long time. He gets annoyed if he doesn't get the ball. Stevie just gave you the rundown as far as his second half of the year is concerned. He did not play well in the playoff game against Kansas City. I think Buffalo, it's time for them to move on. Now, Houston does not have a number 1 pick. Stevie just looked at it.
Yeah.
They don't have a number 1 pick. So what they get?
Shefty just tweeted a little bit ago about
second
the compensation. Round? So they're getting a 2025 second-round pick via Minnesota, and Texans obviously received Stephon Diggs and a 2024 sixth-round pick and a 2025 fifth-round pick.
So they don't even get a pick this year for him. Yeah. This is next year they get a pick. So, wow, look at that. They didn't even get a pick. But I understand why Buffalo did it.
Yeah.
Not a lot of help for this year, but I get why Buffalo did it.
Well, they're going to – look, this is a wide receiver deep draft. They've got to get one.
I agree.
You've got to have more fire.
But this is the problem, though, with the Bills, is the fact that you're giving just now Josh Allen, these young receivers that need to take a minute to develop and get better. And he doesn't have enough of these established veterans. It's a little bit easier if you already have a receiver like Diggs, or if you have like Mahomes had a tight end with Travis Kelce, or an elite offensive head coach in Andy Reid. And so with Josh Allen now, it's like you're just setting up Josh Allen to fail. You're not surrounding him with good quality established players. And you need that. He's never really been able to have that benefit. And you could say that he had Diggs for a minute or two, but Diggs' personality, look what he's doing in that game. He's been trouble in Minnesota. He's been in trouble with the Bills. And you know what? He'll probably start trouble with the Texans, honestly, unless they just, take a straight line to the Super Bowl. So this whole idea that, you're just going to be able to draft a wide receiver or some weapons in the draft, and then that you're just going to be able to hit the ground running, that almost never happens. And again, it can happen especially when you have a great culture established, or a great offensive, coordinator or head coach. But the Bills lack that. Their OC may be good, may be legit. The Jerry's still out from my perspective, but I just think, I feel for Josh Allen more than anything. And the good news is for CJ Stroud and Texans is that they have a good established culture now, which is kind of shocking that they were able to do that so quickly, that I think a Diggs will not be able to get away with his antics. Minnesota was kind of all over the place. The Bills are clearly all over the place. Their coach really hardly has, control of that environment. And now the Texans are like, we are building something special here. And I think it's like, Diggs, do you want to be a part of it? Yes or no? And if you're not in line, then I think it'll be more easily established. I just hope Diggs doesn't get to Stroud, because Stroud is a younger, impressionable quarterback that could potentially cause and a younger OC for that matter. So it'll be interesting. I think it does have potential to cause issues, but I'm not predicting or anticipating that necessarily.
Power, especially in the AFC. Look, Josh is great. And we had that discussion earlier about look at what Patrick has done with less than any other quarterback in the NFL in terms of winning at the highest level.
That is the most nonsense I've ever heard in my entire life. So enough with that narrative, okay? Especially this past Super Bowl. People want to use this past Super Bowl as an example. He had like the best, first or second best defense in the NFL with the first or second best Hall of Famer tight end in the history of the NFL. He's got the GOAT offensive head coach in Andy Reid. So enough of this. Enough of this nonsense. Stop acting like Patrick Mahomes is just winning with nothing, because it's BS. It's absolute BS. Don't forget Spags being arguably the best DC in the NFL. So stop acting like he's just doing this with nothing, because it's just not true. It's just not true. Chris Jones.
I don't know if Josh is ready for that. We're going to find out, because it's just perfect that this happened considering what the last segment was.
Oh, it's perfect.
Because we're going to find out now.
Perfect.
We're going to find out just how much.
Stevie set it up.
How much? Yeah. I don't know if you knew this was going down, Brick.
I didn't know this deal. I didn't know this deal.
You know what?
I didn't know this. I'm not you, my brother. I'm not that wise. But I would tell you this. I've been talking about it since the summertime. I said Stephon Diggs didn't want to be there.
Yeah.
And this is validation. I understand that people want to act like it's just a trade. No, the man has wanted out.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
He lost belief in the franchise. He believed they missed their window. And he was wearing his emotion on his sleeve. All we have to do is go to the videotape, and you can see that.
Yeah.
I came on the air, and I reported it in the summer. He went through this season, and I said, you cannot come back next season with him. And he clearly wanted out. And so for me, he should be thankful, because the Buffalo Bills sent him to a really, really good situation. C.J. Stroud is an absolute stud. This brother can ball. He is something special. Tank Dell, Nico Collins, Dalton Schultz. These brothers can play now. And so when you look at it from that perspective, you talked about them bringing up Mixon. I will remind you, we can look at the blowout loss, the lopsided loss rather, that Baltimore handed to them in the divisional playoff round. Let us not forget what they did to Cleveland the week before that, okay? Cleveland, I understand they had Joe Flacco. It wasn't Deshaun Watson, but Joe Flacco had great moments for Cleveland at some point in time this year. They got to the playoffs. Their defense is real and a whole bit, and the Houston Texans gave it to them. And so when I look at it from that standpoint, I'm looking at the talent that the Houston Texans have on this squad. Again, still on those guys. I'm of the mindset. I'll give credit where credit's due. I am no fan of the Texans as an organization with McNair and them, and I don't like what they was doing with black coaches, hiring them and getting rid of them.
Oh, they killed Curry. They fired him after 1 year.
I was disgusted with all of that, but there is no denying that D'Amico Ryans is a sensational young coach. He was my coach of the year. When I look at him and what he brings to the table and what C.J. Stroud brings to the table and the personnel they have, this offense is going to be even more prolific. And as a result, look out for the Houston Texans. This is a big-time pickup. And also, last thing about Diggs, I understand he can come across as a bit petulant at times. He was in Minnesota. He was clearly the best receiver. They tried to give more love to Adam Thielen. You understand? He wanted out of Minnesota. Like you pointed out, Josh Allen elevated once Stephon Diggs arrived. The brother is a difference-maker, the game changer, notwithstanding the postseason performance against Kansas City just now. And now he's going to...
Do not put Josh Allen's eliteness on Diggs. That is just absurd. Sure, do wide receivers help? Just like Tyreek Hill helped Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes' numbers have been down since then, so I guess, Tyreek Hill makes Patrick Mahomes.
Houston. Wherever he goes, the quarterbacks look better. And C.J. Stroud was looking big time without him.
Yeah.
So imagine what C.J. Stroud is going to look like now. Look out for the Houston
Do you
Texans.
think that Harbaugh poses a...
Yeah. I just think, I don't know why Stephen A is trying to downplay Stephon Diggs' issues. I get him, on the field, he's great, but, he's had problems, everywhere, causing these types of issues. And I just think you can acknowledge that and still acknowledge that he's a great wide receiver. You don't have to downplay that because it's not worth it. It shouldn't be downplayed. It just shouldn't be. And again, I'm not going to pretend and act like that it's the biggest thing ever and it's, it's scandalous like he's, a TO from 2003 or 2004, whatever, the year when he was standing outside and working out and doing press conferences and stuff. But it's just, let's just not act like he's just a good old Boy Scout here. Or that he makes quarterbacks, because that's just not true. Josh Allen is an absolute stud and does everything with a defensive head coach, with multiple OCs, an OC that's fired in the middle of a season, which is everything when your head coach is a defensive head coach, because that's your entire offense out the window. Okay? So those are not easy things to overcome, and yet Josh Allen has overcome them, and largely single-handedly. So, this idea, did Stephon Diggs catch the balls that he needed to against Kansas City? No, he didn't. Who threw perfect passes to his receivers? Josh Allen. Who dropped those passes? The receivers. Stephon Diggs and others. So this idea that, he elevates, to imply that he kind of made Allen, that Allen was nothing until Diggs got there, is nonsense. Allen was able to really get elevated when he had a legitimate offensive-minded coordinator in Dable. That's what matters. I don't understand when everyone else is going to understand this, but for quarterbacks, having an offensive head coach or a great OC matters. It matters, it matters, it matters. It's arguably the most important thing a quarterback can have, more than the weapons or an O-line, maybe an O-line, because if you don't have an O-line, then what the heck can you do? But you need the coordinator. You need the coordinator. You need the play caller. You just need it. So that's the difference. That is the difference more than anything. But again, the last thing I'll say is this idea that Patrick Mahomes has just won with no one but scrubs is just insane. Yes, I understand his offense wasn't that potent this past season, and his numbers showed for it. The defense carried them. The defense did. They couldn't score more than 20 points. The defense carried them. Nick Wright, super fan, even admitted that this was like a defensive-led championship. So don't put it on Patrick Mahomes then. And in the moments when Patrick Mahomes had to really be Patrick Mahomes, it was the brilliant play call and design of Andy Reid. Whether it was the play against the Ravens to ice the game in the playoffs and against the AFC Championship game, or in the Super Bowl. And again, Patrick Mahomes executed it perfectly. Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL right now. I'm not arguing against that at all. But to deny Andy Reid's thumbprint and imprint and impact on this is just insane. It's just insane. Okay, Josh Allen, let's see what you can do. Except we're not going to give you a Hall of Fame, one of the best tight ends to ever play the game. We're not going to give you like a first or second top defense with a top DC that can scheme against any quarterback in the NFL, any offense in the NFL. And we're not going to give you a Hall of Fame best coach in the history of the NFL. Let's see what you can do. And then we're going to compare you to Patrick Mahomes. That makes no sense. And that is so insane and absurd. And I just like, when I hear comments like that, I'm just like, my head literally explodes. It literally explodes. But those are just my thoughts. I would absolutely love to hear yours. Please let me know what you're thinking in the comments below. Do you think the Bills trading Stephon Diggs for what they got was worth it? Should they have tried to make do? Do you think the Texans are going to be, skyrocketing to, are they better than the Chiefs now? Like where do you rate them? Let me know in the comments below. And please don't forget to subscribe. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of, and I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.